Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. We'd like to welcome you to another show brought to you by TTR. For those of you that are on here for the first time, TTR stands for True Temperance International. We're a family health show. We're a health ministry. And for those of you who want to find out more about us, you can go on to our website at www.truetemperanceInternational.org. And over there, you can find out more about what we do, who the members are, and so on. But yes, we'd just like to welcome you on our show here today as the participants and the viewers are streaming in. We're just getting started. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Brent Hart. I'm coming to you from South Africa today, and I'll be the host for this show, and I have my co-host Charlene, who's coming to you from the United Kingdom. Welcome, Charlene. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Brent. Good afternoon or good morning to you all.
Great, thanks for that, Charlene. So you say it's a little bit wet that side today?
Very wet.
Did I hear a liquid?
It's very wet.
Liquidy is coming down.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Yeah. Well, we need more of that this side. I think our dams are on 4% capacity as of last week. So we need a lot of liquid this side. Yeah, we're going through quite a bad drought here at the moment. So yeah, we need some of that this side. So please send it. So yes, guys, see we're streaming in now. So we just like to introduce everybody. So we've got a show brought to us today, and our main host for the show is none other than Scott Turner. Scott is going to be discussing heart disease with us today. And Scott, just a bit about his credentials. He's a fully trained medical missionary. He's affiliated to Centurion Ministry, which is set up in America. And he's also affiliated to Herbs for Food. And Scott has actually been over here to South Africa, so he's quite well traveled. And yes, Scott will be bringing us a very important topic today on heart disease. So what we'd also like to cover is some testimonials from last week. Charlene, we actually had a challenge last week, right?
We did. We had a challenge. So this was to do with the lymphatic system, and it was to lay it on your back, and then you can either have your hands out, or you can have your hands on your tummy, and then what you have to do is deep breathe for 5 minutes.
Oh yeah.
With the window slightly open.
Okay. So yes, so we'd like to get some feedback on that. I see we've got about 57 participants on the Zoom call at the moment. We've obviously got quite a few on YouTube. So for those of you that took part in that and were on last week's show, where we had Noel and Marie Fender that gave us that presentation on the lymphatic system. We'd like to possibly hear from you with regards to if you took part in that challenge. So, yeah, Charlene, I think we should give the viewers a chance.
Yes, I will share mine, but I'm going to let the audience talk first.
Okay.
Yes, well, I can share mine. I know Sharon's been doing hers as well.
Okay.
And reaping the benefits. But we're going to see if anybody will unmute and speak to us and give us their testimony. I hope it's not going to stay quiet. Anybody like to unmute?
Testimony about?
So we had a challenge. So those who came on our show, a previous show, or who's on our Telegram group as well, our WhatsApp group and Telegram group, we had a challenge set regarding the lymphatic system. So what you had to do was deep breathe, laying on your back, because that's the best way to do a good deep breathe. Oh. And because they find that when we're standing up, we don't really breathe properly. But when you're laying on your back, it's more easier to do it, to breathe. So there was a challenge set to getting some good oxygen into our lungs by laying on our back and putting our hands on our tummy and breathing in and breathing out 5 minutes with the window open, or it's on the rebounder, like a little mini trampoline, which is great when it comes to the lymphatic system, of draining of the lymphatic system. So that was the challenge, but it could be that one, or it could be previous ones that we've had. So that was either those who may have cleavers, dandelion, and I think it was burdock, to identify them. Or there was a no sugar one, more exercise, more water, not eating in between meals, eating at a certain time before bed, going to bed on time. So we set quite a few challenges so that people can, nettles, thank you, Sharon, it was nettle. We set quite a few challenges for people to take on and reap the benefits afterwards for them. So this is the time where people will be able to talk and give a testimony.
Hi, Shirley, it's Cindy.
Hi, Cindy.
I did take on the challenge, but I'm still working on it because sometimes I just fall asleep, to be honest. I'm so tired. So that just shows how it's relaxing me anyway. But yes, I did take on partially the challenge, but I'm still going to be continuing it. I'm still doing my green juicing and walking every single day. Need to still increase my water, but I'm loving the green juicing because I'm seeing the weight drip off me as well.
Oh, that's good.
You know? And yeah, I think the walking has done me well. I love walking anyway, I always have. So yes, I'm taking up some of the challenge. I've got to get back to juicing the beetroot and celery and garlic for my blood pressure. So still.
Oh, the one that Lucille did. Yeah. The high blood pressure one, yes.
Yeah, so it's a bit of mix and match and all the rest of it. But yes, I'm taking on the challenges as much as possible.
Oh, lovely. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you for sharing with us.
No problem.
Can I share a testimony?
You can, Sharon.
Okay, this was actually from Sunday's presentation with Barbara O'Neill. I shared it on the WhatsApp group, on the Telegram group, but I'm not, but I'll share it on here anyway because it was just so worth it. So Barbara shared with us some natural remedies that you can use from the kitchen, you know, using food that we would normally eat, but different ways of using them. And the first one she started off with was the onion. Now, on Sunday morning, my son had actually woken up with an earache, and I hadn't told anything, like, you know, I hadn't told Barbara this, but the first thing she shared with us was steaming the onion, and then she said it was good for earache. And I was like, oh, of course, of course. So then what I did is, as she was talking, and we were hosting as well, I put the onion onto steam, and then let it cool down a bit because I didn't want to burn my son's ear, naturally, and then got him to hold it over his ear. And this earache normally lasts for at least 3 days, could be longer. By the end of the program, we finished the meet and greet, the earache had gone. He was so happy. It was still a little bit blocked, but he was so happy that the earache had gone from using simple natural remedies. And we prayed as well and give God the glory and the thanks. And the earache hasn't come back with anywhere near the intensity that it was last week Sunday. So thanking God for that.
Can I share a testimony as well?
Thank you, Sharon, for that. Thank you for the testimony. Yes, of course, Audrey.
It was so interesting, that Sunday meeting with the onions and everything. And I've got a program this afternoon starting at about 4 o'clock. I'm hosting it, and Thursday, I think it was, I started sniffling and I was feeling very funny and I was sneezing, and I thought, no, I have to be well for this program. And I went straight for the onions. I chopped it, placed it all over the place. I put it in the socks when I went to sleep. And I did it exactly as you said we should use it. And honestly, in the morning, on Friday, I was fit as anything. I'm sure my voice sounds normal right now. And when we were praying with my prayer partner on the day, she said, "Oh, you are sniffling, you're not well, are you?" I said, "No, I'm not well." But the very next day, there was no sign of anything. It was as if I had never suffered anything. I was not going to have any illness. So that onion thing is fantastic, beautiful.
Oh, that's amazing.
Wonderful.
The good old onion.
The good old onion, say it again.
Good old
Absolutely.
onion.
Absolutely.
That's brilliant.
No, thank you for that, Audrey.
Anyone else would like to share? Okay, it sounds like everyone's shared what they're going to share there, Charlene.
Yes, it's very quiet now. Now it's gone quiet.
Yeah. So if we don't have anyone else, I think let's then move on to the rest of the show, Charlene.
Yes,
could we just go over the disclaimer before we start?
Okay.
If you'd like to just read that, if we can have that on the screen. There we go. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just going to read it. Only a physician can diagnose, treat, and prescribe for illness or disease. Any information disclosed or discussed at the TTI Zoom talk show are for educational and informational purposes only. Please continue to seek medical advice from your general practitioner regarding any illness or disease you may be suffering from. Thank you. Thanks, Edgar.
Okay, thank you, Shirley. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So we'd just like to introduce our speaker again today, none other than Scott Turner, who will be discussing heart disease with us today. And this is something quite sensitive for me at the moment, because my dad's actually just gone through a double bypass. So I'm very interested to hear what Scott's got to say to us today. And Scott has actually gone through full medical missionary training. Scott has traveled around the world and presented in various countries. Scott is also linked to Mammon Wilson's Centurion Ministry. He is also part of Herbs for Food. So Scott is very well versed when it comes to medical missionary training and health. And he will be presenting to us today on a very important topic, namely heart disease. So I think without further ado, Shirley, is there anything else you want to cover before we move over to Scott?
Just one thing. Whilst Brother Scott is speaking, we will be posting links to our Telegram groups if anybody would like to join. Okay. But that's all. Thank you.
Okay. So in the message box on the platform, there'll be various links throughout the show, and at the end we'll share a bit more about TTR, what we're about, our additional programs. So once Scott's finished with his presentation, we'll give you some additional information. So without further ado, Scott, it's over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. It's a blessing to be here this morning. Well, morning where I am. What I want to do now is just start off with a short word of prayer. Our most gracious Father in heaven, Lord, you have carved out this Sabbath that we might draw ourselves closer to you. But Lord, we need your help. So we invite your Holy Spirit to come in and take full control of what we're doing, what we're talking about, and even the motivation of our hearts, Lord. Help us to have the proper motivation that we might seek to save souls. And Lord, help us in these last days that we might know exactly what it is we're to do to expedite your soon coming. And we thank you for this platform. We thank you for the brothers and sisters that helped to organize it. And now as we proceed, we ask that you will give us that divine wisdom that can only come from above. And we thank you. In your precious Son, Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Let's open our Bibles to the book of Numbers. And I want to look at verse 5 in Numbers. And verse 5 in Numbers says, "We remember the fish which we did eat in Egypt freely, the cucumbers and the melons and the leeks and the onions."
Brother Scott, you muted yourself.
I just saw it. Yeah. Did you hear anything that I was saying?
If you can go back to the beginning.
Okay.
What chapter is it, please?
I'm in the book of Numbers, chapter 11.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Numbers chapter 11 and verse 5. It says, "We remember the fish which we did eat in Egypt freely, the cucumbers and the melons and the leeks and the onions and the garlic." And if we look at that scripture closely, we see that all of those things listed there, except for the fish, they're all diuretics, and they all work. Several of them have allicin properties, which work to strengthen the blood vessels and actually thin the blood slightly to help it move freely through the body. Now, it's interesting that these are the children of Egypt coming out of an experience in Egypt, and they're looking back at what they used to have. And the Lord had actually put those things in the diet to help their health. The flesh pots of Egypt were not what God intended for his people. So now we're in a similar situation all over the world where heart disease is the #1 killer of individuals throughout the world. And the primary reason for that is we have adopted lifestyles, usually the Western diet, or what we say, the SAD diet, the standard American diet. And it's amazing, as I travel, I can see where the trend is like, it's like an infection that's growing throughout the world. The more Western civilization or Western customs and social norms travel throughout the world, disease follows. And those things would be things like fast food, social media. As long as people are looking to the masses for how they are going to live their life, they're picking up some very, very bad habits. Just one example, when I went to Fiji, I think just a few years ago, was #1 in the world for diabetes. But that's around the perimeter of the primary island of Nadi. So if you go in the interior, though, you're not suffering with diabetes, the interior part of the island. But around the perimeter of the island is where most of the tourists and where most of the activity on the island takes place. So that's where they have the most problems. And that's where their indigenous diet, which deals with things like taro root and yams, kind of root vegetables, what they call ground provisions, they were fine for centuries eating that diet. But once that diet was combined with the fast food and the fried foods and the trans fats, then the diabetes started to skyrocket. So let me just make it plain. As we have become more busy, as we have become less attached to our growing our own food, we have become more dependent upon grocery stores. And as we move closer in these last days to where the Lord would have us to be, we'll find that we will have further distance between us and a grocery store. We will not be we won't be looking for a job, we'll be looking for work. We won't be looking to be close to schools, we'll be looking to have a school that is one of true education. Our entire mindset, our entire approach to living will change and is changing for many people. Work is different from a job. Work is what the Lord said we should do if we want to eat. But a job is something that we have been taught that we should go get a job. But if we have trades, if we have skills, if we have things that we can do, we can go anywhere in the world and be a testimony, be an actual witness for what the Lord has for us. So what I want to do this morning, like I said, it's morning here at least, is talk about the actual practical application. What do we do with a person with heart disease? Now I'm going to read a quote from the book Temperance, and this is on page 127. And I'll just read this now. I think it would be probably, if you were looking it up on an electronic device, possibly paragraph 3, page 127. It's in the chapter Rehabilitating the Intemperate. And what it says is, patience needed in dealing with demon-possessed inebriate. In dealing with victims of intemperance, we must remember that we are not dealing with sane men, but with those who for the time being are under the power of a demon. This is strong language, I know. Now I'll continue reading. Be patient and forbearing. Think not of the repulsive, forbidding appearance, but of the precious life that Christ died to redeem. As the drunkard awakens to a sense of his degradation, do all in your power to show that you are his friend. Speak no word of censure. Let no act or look express reproach or aversion. Very likely the poor soul curses himself. Help him to rise. Speak words that will encourage faith. Seek to strengthen every good trait in his character. Teach him how to reach upward. Show him that it is possible for him to live so as to win the respect of his fellow men. Help him to see the value of his talents, which God has given him, but which he has neglected to improve. That goes for every single person that we work with in the medical missionary lines. Many of us have baggage or demons that have invaded our very soul that are like strongholds. And I remember years ago when I was first exposed to medical missionary work, and that was over 30 years ago. I've been doing the work about 10 years full time. But when I was first exposed to it, I remember people talking about medical missionaries going into churches and kind of beating people up, telling them you shouldn't eat this, you shouldn't be doing that, you shouldn't be doing this. And it was just shocking to the people. And a lot of people were turned off by the work and the message because of the way it was presented. But now we are being given fresh and beautiful instructions to take this message not only to the church, but beyond the church, but to do it in love rather than in a berating style that makes people feel as if they're being chastised for doing what they think their parents did, their grandparents did. So I say all this to say that this work is 90% spiritual, 10% physical. And we have to remember how we're dealing with people and who we're dealing with, the value that that person has in the eyes of God. We're not just out here saying, take this herb, take this supplement, go and do this, go and do that. And I'll tell you, it's difficult at times to really have the time at the pace that we go at here, because we get so many calls and so many inquiries. It's difficult for us to spend the time spiritually sometimes that people need. And that kind of weighs heavily on me. I'm trying to figure out how can I put together a network of individuals that can support people, that can pray with them, that can kind of check in and follow up. I work very hard to follow up with people that I'm working with. These are the things that you'll face as you get further involved in this work, is that your desire is going to be to see, how is that person I spoke to 4 months ago that had the high blood pressure, that was trying to make the adjustment in their lifestyle, that was trying to incorporate exercise regularly into their schedule. Those are the things that you will find yourself really trying to check and see how that person's doing. So what I want to do now is I'm going to screen share a few things. I'm going to share just a general protocol. This is very, very, very basic. I just wanted to go through it because I don't want to assume that anyone knows anything, which is really the way we should approach this work. I can see where some of my document got adjusted in my transmission. But anyway, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, stroke, and triglycerides. Now, heart disease is the #1 killer in the world. About 25% of people that are dying from heart disease. Causes of heart disease are usually lifestyle related. Maybe 5 to 7% are genetically predisposed to some kind of heart disease, arterial sclerosis, heart palpitations that might be complicated with a lack of oxygen into the brain or into the bloodstream. So when we're working with people with heart disease, there's a few things that I consider and that I've just noticed there's a trend. Constipation is usually something that they struggle with because their bodies have been bombarded usually with foods that are not healthy. So just a simple colon cleanser, increasing water, sunshine, exercise. Those 4 things, 4 out of 8 of the laws of health, can be very effective for helping a person that has any kind of heart problems. A healthy diet. Now let's look at this here. The very first thing on this protocol, we say you must stop eating saturated animal fat and hydrogenated vegetable fats, such as coconut oil is 88% saturated fat, but coconut oil is very good for you as a medium chain fatty acid. So when I'm talking about these oils here and these fats, I'm talking about cooking them, using them to cook with. But overall, coconut oil is good in its raw state. Vegetable fat, animal fat, if you eat flesh meat, eat only 2 times weekly. Now, this is a transition diet. This is for somebody who has been eating any and everything all their life. I give them that opportunity to eat it just a couple times, but I tell them it's best if they don't eat it at all. But some people, because of the way they eat, so for example, a person grows up eating that little continental breakfast in the morning, the fatty lunch in the afternoon, and the heavy dinner in the evening. Now, I come to them right away and I say, you should only eat 2 meals a day. Your first meal should be a big salad in the morning immediately. They look at me like, what? A big salad in the morning? It sounds foreign to them. They can't even wrap their taste buds around eating a salad in the morning. It's just totally foreign to them. So I put that in there only to give them an opportunity to just realize that they've got to reduce it, because usually they're eating meat 3 times a day. Homogenized milk, butter, cheese, eggs. Cut back on salt in your foods. If they have high blood pressure, I tell them to eliminate all visible salt in their food. Eliminate high protein foods, such as fish, chicken, beef. Vegetarian meats, the fake mock meats, are actually just as bad for you as the real meat. If you fry it, if you cook it, just like you cook the flesh meats, the body recognizes it the exact same way. Fat, protein, carbohydrates. Oversaturating the system at one time where it can't process that fat, and it ends up becoming clogged in the arteries and causing problems for the circulatory system. There's 3 reasons why we get sick. If there's anything you want to take away today, remember this: 3 reasons why we get sick: constipation, poor circulation, and inflammation. If we can keep our bodies from being constipated, if we can keep our circulation high, and if we can keep inflammation down in the body, we can be very healthy. So what does that mean in the days of, for example, in COVID-19, most people aren't dying from the virus, they're dying from the immune system's response to the virus. Our immune systems are overreacting to the invasion of a foreign pathogen, meaning that our bodies are actually sending fluid, sending inflammation properties, which is a defense mechanism that the body has to protect itself, but it overreacts. And therefore the lungs become full of fluids. And usually it's because of some pre-existing condition that they have that causes the body to overreact. If a person is healthy, taking care of themselves on a plant-based diet, they usually won't have the complications that other people have. So there's a few herbs listed down below. And sugar, by the way, absolutely has to be eliminated. I wrote this particular protocol for somebody who was local in my area, and they eat pretty poorly here. So when I told them to eliminate all these things, I kind of added the animal fat. If you eat flesh meat, just eat it 2 times weekly. And I went and revisited them, and they said that they eliminated totally. And I said, thank the Lord. In my approach, and this is something that the Lord has taught me over the years, you don't want to overwhelm somebody with too much information at one time, and you don't want them to have to change their entire lifestyle right away. You feel it out. Some people can handle it. Some people, they're going to get overwhelmed and they're not going to do anything. This particular individual was one where I knew I needed to take it slow with them. I tried to give them some of the things that they were used to doing. Coleus for scoli. Take 1 capsule 3 times daily. I don't do this anymore. I have compounds that we've developed. I have a high blood pressure compound, inflammatory compound, glucose compound, lymphatic system flush. So now when I'm working with people, I can actually make specific compounds for specific diseases. I'm working with somebody right now that has essential thrombocythemia. And I've been researching the last 3 or 4 days. When I have a little bit of time, I'll just jump in, do some research, check some old books, and then check online, then reference different books. Essential thrombocythemia is when there's just an overproduction of platelets in the body. And I'm starting to draw some connections between hormones, and it usually happens in women more than men. So that's what kind of sent me down the research of female hormones as they relate to the overproduction of platelets. So it kind of crossed over into some of the things that I do with people that have had a stroke, or some people that have a predisposition towards heart disease. And what we want to do with somebody that has heart disease, we want to open up those capillaries. We want to create more blood flow. We want to open up the valves in the heart so that they can pump freely. We want to release toxins from the body. We want to give a person those properties that are going to actually increase the oxygen level in the bloodstream. Coleus for scoli is one of those that actually acts in a powerful way to reduce the restrictions of the blood vessels. Cat's claw in a simple term, cat's claw has some blood thinning properties. Butcher's broom is a very powerful detoxifying herb. Yellow dock is a blood cleanser. This was written at the time when we were using capsules, but now I use compounds. I'll combine a lymphatic flush compound with a high blood pressure compound with an anti-inflammatory. If the person has heart disease, the congestive heart disease, where there's inflammation around the heart. So now I've adjusted my approach to these, but this protocol is for somebody who doesn't have access to what I have or is wanting to do it on their own. So moving down now, and of course the vitamin E is excellent for creating elasticity in the vessels in the arteries. Hypertension, of course, a garlic enema 2 times a day. Anybody that has severe high blood pressure, you can suggest that they do this. Take a whole bulb of garlic. Now, the bulb of garlic is the part that has all the cloves in it. So this is a whole bulb of garlic. You take the outer skins off and you put it in a blender, and you probably add about maybe 3/4 of a cup of water. And I sometimes put a little bit of olive oil in there also to possibly reduce any kind of burning that could take place when they put this retention enema in. But they're going to put about 6 to 8 ounces of this fluid in their rectum and hold it for about 20 minutes. That will be absorbed through the portal vein and actually reduce the blood pressure. The next thing that's listed here is an eggplant tea, where you cut up a whole eggplant and place it in 2 quarts of spring water. Cut up 3 garlic bulbs, 4 tablespoons of golden seal powder, and let it sit overnight, then place in the refrigerator for 3 days. And then you drink an ounce 6 times a day. I've adjusted that now where there's no golden seal in it, because golden seal has gone sky high in cost. I keep it here, but people might not be able to get it. And you can get the same effect pretty much. I did a little experiment to see you can get the same effect if you use enough garlic and the eggplant. Just let it set overnight, put it in the refrigerator and drink it. The golden seal actually acts as a detergent for the blood, basically. It's a blood cleanser. And when you combine garlic and golden seal, you've got nature's most powerful antibiotic. They've actually cured syphilis with just golden seal and garlic in high doses. So you'd want to drink that. A liver cleanse, very, very effective. We should all do this at least once every year, every 2 years. This is where you take lemon juice from a lemon and you combine it with olive oil, drink it, and you can lie on your right side and actually pull your left leg up. It's going to actually force that into the liver area. Now, this is a modified version. Usually I take 5 lemons, then 10 lemons, then 15 lemons over the course of 3 days with 1 ounce of olive oil. This is a different approach here. It's a little lighter, not as invasive, a little easier to do. But if you want a really powerful liver gallbladder, shouldn't forget that this is really helping the gallbladder. You take 5 lemons, 1 ounce of olive oil, 10 lemons, 1 ounce of olive oil, 15 lemons, 1 ounce of olive oil. 3 days, you can do that up to 5 days along that same course, up to 25 lemons and 1 ounce of olive oil. I tend to increase it at the 25 lemons. I go to like 2 or 3 ounces of olive oil just because I think you need a little bit more oil with that much lemon juice. Now, colon cleansing. Many of you have probably become familiar. If you've been studying medical missionary work, you understand that most of the processes of dealing with disease start with the colon and getting good colon health, getting waste matter out of the body. That's the first step in just about anything that we work with, whether it's cancer, diabetes, high blood pressure, any disease. We want to make sure that the elimination system is working properly. If a body is toxic, if a body is fighting toxins that could be easily eliminated, you're going to reduce your chances of being effective when you use natural remedies. Now, it was back in the 70s, I think, in the mid 70s, the Soviet Union whenever anybody came into the hospital, they automatically got a colonic. But as Western medicine, now, what did I say, the mid-70s, when did the Western world kind of meet Russia? Mid-80s. They don't do that anymore. There were a lot of treatments all over the world that have been maintained, but they're losing those treatments now because Western medicine, just like Western diet, is spreading throughout the world. And some of those things that were healthy, that they just knew worked, they're starting to put to the side and just go with allopathic chemicals. And chemicals, they'll use chemicals right on top of a person that's constipated and figure we can override whatever the body's going through. And that's why the drugs and the chemicals are so strong and so toxic to the system. That's a simple addition to the colon cleanser where it says the lecithin 3 times a day. That's a natural fat-soluble substance. It's very good for the heart. Vitamin C, of course, has some blood-thinning properties, but it's also great for the immune system and antioxidants. And of course, water. Most people that suffer from any kind of heart disease, I've noticed almost every single one of them does not drink enough water. So water is critical. The vegetable juice for nutritional purposes, carrot juice as well. I tend to stay away from straight carrot juice now. There's just a lot of sugar in that. So I usually combine a juice with carrot, cucumber, celery, garlic, ginger, parsley. Those are good combination. Beets, I'll put beets in there. That's a good juice. That's probably my favorite juice to use for people. Now this is if somebody's suffering from anemia. This particular protocol was written for somebody that had anemic issues. So there's a formula that we put together. Look down below, it says the iron drink, use 64 ounces of grape juice. This is a very effective way to build up somebody's blood count. It's literally like a liquid oral blood transfusion. So you take a 1/3 cup of raisins, a 1/3 cup of prunes, 1/3 cup of apricots, add about a cup of blackstrap with the 64 ounces of grape juice, let it sit overnight. Take 4 ounces 3 times a day. Now, I would add figs to that as well. So it'd be raisins, prunes, apricots, and figs, and with the blackstrap molasses and the iron drink. Liquid chlorophyll is something that many of us should be taking because as we age, and as we become less active, our bodies are not metabolizing as much oxygen as they did when we were younger. So liquid chlorophyll is a great way to get oxygen into the bloodstream for people that, I'll put it to you this way. Athletes that are very active will take liquid chlorophyll to optimize their performance, but people that aren't very active should take liquid chlorophyll to help to get their bodies to a baseline that's healthy. It's got supercharged oxygen properties in it that help the blood. Chlorophyll is the green liquid substance from plants. And if you look at it, the molecular structure, it's the closest liquid on Earth to actually human plasma, which is why we would use that for people with anemia also. This is something that Sister White put in one of her books. Says use the white clear fluid of a fertile egg with 8 ounces of the iron drink that you have above and do twice a day for 3 days. That's if you want to supercharge it. I haven't had to do that. Usually the substance alone is good enough. But some of you are probably saying, why is Sister White using an egg? Well, there are a lot of writings of hers where she used substances that you might be surprised with. She used coffee when she was on a ship and she felt seasick. And the health message has been a progressive message over time. Sister White wasn't always plant-based. That was something that she came into later on. So some of her writings might actually be suspect. Somebody say, hey, wait a minute, she's talking about eggs here. But when I'm working with people that are sick, like we don't use things like, I don't eat mushrooms, but I use certain Chinese mushrooms for medicinal purposes. I don't typically eat cayenne pepper, but I do use cayenne pepper a lot for different formulas as an activating substance to help the activating properties of herbal formulas. What else? Vinegar. I don't eat vinegar, but if somebody's got a fever, I might use vinegar to pat them down externally to reduce a fever. And coffee, for example. I don't drink coffee, but I might use coffee to help the gallbladder to purge substances using it in an enema, and in a coffee enema. But I also have another substance. If a person isn't comfortable with coffee, I can use barberry and get pretty much the same results. So this is, like I said, a very basic approach. Now, let's talk about the 8 laws of health. Person should be exercising as much as they can. If a person has heart disease, they could possibly be a candidate for stroke. They could be a candidate for getting too fast of a heart rate that their heart isn't strong enough to handle. So it's always a good practice to know what the baseline health of is that person, so that you can make adjustments if need be. And actually, it's good if you have that person go to their doctor and find out what they're able to do. How much exercise can I do, doc? If the person doesn't have a doctor that they can go to, then you have to spend more time with them, seeing what are they able to do. And through your judgment and through your skill and through prayer, you have to see just how far that person might be able to go so that they don't injure themselves. Keeping the circulation of the blood moving is important. I'll find sometimes where I'm sitting at my desk for 4 to 5 hours, just working straight through. I can tell a serious difference in the way my body feels if I get up, go walk really, really fast out in nature, and come back and sit down. My mental clarity is just so much more heightened. When the blood's not flowing, for many of us who have been athletes or have worked our bodies out where we're really, really exhausted, where you're huffing and puffing, that feeling that you have just after that exertion of exercise. It's like a rush through your entire body, your brain, your clear mind is clear. You can literally hear the voice of God better after exerting yourself physically than you can when you're just sitting in a home without getting that physical activity. So what I'm going to talk about now are some formulas that would work well with somebody with heart disease. And the first one is the cardiac health formula that we put together. And I'm going to tell you the ingredients in here. I'm not going to explain each ingredient in detail, but these are things that I always tell people you should really, really research. Whenever I give somebody something to take, I say, go ahead and research those ingredients. Find out what it is you're putting in your body. Whenever anybody gets a pharmaceutical drug, I always tell them, go online, find out what the side effects are, so that if you're taking something, you should know what's potentially going to happen in your body. It's amazing to me how many people will take something from me or something from their doctor and not research what's in it, not really take it upon themselves. At the end of the day, we are the ones responsible for everything that goes in our body. Husbands, you're the high priest of the home. You're responsible for every food substance that comes in the house, for every chemical that comes in the house, everything that comes in the house, the high priest should be aware of and blessing it. So Forscoli is in this, CoQ10, magnesium, cramp bark, which is a very, very powerful blood thinner, Kaigua, which is high in vitamin C and also has blood thinning properties, hawthorn berry, which is good to strengthen the heart muscles, garlic, ginger, onion extract, which has allicin, which is good for the heart as well, mistletoe, which has calming effects, so it has some potassium properties in it, butcher's broom, a vitamin C compound that I put together that just has five things in it. It has acerola, rose hips, citrus bioflavonoids, camu, and I can't remember the other substance right now, but I like that formula because I noticed when I was using ascorbic acid I said, I wanted to research it. So I started to research ascorbic acid, and I found out that about 95% of it is generated from what they call genetically modified corn. That's where most of the ascorbic acid was being produced from. And I said, genetically modified corn is probably the last thing I want to put in my body. And especially if they're extracting substances from that genetically modified corn. So I said, well, let me just find the most powerful natural vitamin C-based plant foods, combine those, and come up with my own vitamin C formula. So now I'm able to see, as you work with substances, your goal, I didn't know this when I started it. It's just kind of evolved into this. Now I have compounds that I can compound together. I have things for thinning the blood, things for reducing the blood pressure, things for reducing the glucose in the bloodstream. So now I can combine things for people's specific circumstances. This is good for now, while we have access to all these herbs. Later on, we're going to have to look more and more to nature for the natural leaves, roots, berries, and barks to do the same things that we're able to do now with these herbs. I stopped a little bit. There's more in here. Taurine, which is a amino acid. Selenium, which is very important for our health. Potassium, niacin, and capsicum. So this formula here was one of the later formulas that we put together here. Now I'll tell you how I actually got started in this. I started full-time medical missionary work about 10 years ago. I've known Mayman Wilson for about 30 plus years, and he kind of called me out many, many years ago in a camp meeting and said, you know, there's somebody here who would make a good medical missionary. And he said, Brother Scott. And I started laughing, and other people started laughing, even little kids started laughing, because at that time, to see me doing medical missionary work was literally like a joke. And it took almost 17 years for me to finally allow the Lord to work in me. And he had to let me go through some things in order for me to finally say, okay, Lord, I'm going to walk out by faith, and I'm going to do what you're calling me to do. And it's been a very fast and busy path ever since then. It was like out of the blocks, but I had to take that step by faith. I had to get out of my comfort zone. I had to get out of my control zone too, where I wanted to control my life. And doing this work, you won't have as much control, but if you show him that you're willing to trust him, he will actually make it custom for you so that you can handle it. He has a way of having a personal prescription for every single one of us. And that's the beauty of this work, is that none of us are going to do it the same, but we're all members of the same body, prayerfully operating under the same spirit. So that's the high blood pressure formula. Now, this is probably my favorite formula, is the inflammatory response formula. And this is what we use for people with heart disease, people with autoimmune diseases, people with arthritis. This is very effective for reducing pain because it actually works on those pain centers, those nerve centers. So this has butcher's broom, which is probably one of the master herbs for reducing inflammation. Wormwood, another one. Queen meadow, which is an assisting herb. Again, the forscoli, because we're trying to increase circulation as we reduce inflammation. Ginger, bromelain, which is, as many of you know from pineapple, is another anti-inflammatory. Fennel, just a simple herb that you use. There's a few things in here that you're going to see in your kitchen. Fennel, if you have somebody that has severe inflammation and all you have is fennel and rosemary growing in your garden, make a strong tea of fennel and rosemary and put some garlic in there and have them drink that tea. You can put some parsley in there for diuretic purposes to help them release fluid in their body. Corn silk, if you have some corn growing somewhere and you just take the silk off the corn, put it in a pot of water with parsley and garlic. That's a great way to help somebody release fluid in their body. Devil's claw, yucca, turmeric, quercetin, very, very good for inflammation. Magnesium, wild yam, boswellia, which is also frankincense, garlic, clove, curcumin, and I have a curcumin blend that we use, and then cayenne pepper. Now, if a person's suffering from heart disease, why would you want to address inflammation? Because heart disease always has a measure of inflammation in it. You'll hear doctors talk about, well, what are his inflammatory markers? Those are the things that actually show the immune system's desire and effort to remedy a circumstance in the body. If we can reduce the inflammation, now the body's immune system can focus on possibly the cause of the issue. You see, it takes a lot of resources for the body to elevate those inflammation markers. It's like this: a person's sick with cancer, and somebody says, well, why don't you want them to eat cooked food? I say, well, we want to reduce the immune system's activity on everything that we can, on almost everything, so they can focus on the cancer. But they say, yeah, but why the cooked food? Why can't they eat a lot of cooked food? Well, there's a simple little fancy word called leukocytosis. All that means is if I put food that's been heated over about 125 degrees in my body doesn't recognize it the same way that it would recognize raw food. Now, I'm going to go down a little path here. I've heard some medical missionaries say that we shouldn't eat raw vegetables. Maybe some of you have heard that. I don't like to get into controversies about who's right and who's wrong, but I do like to use the Bible as my standard. Even before I'll use Spirit of Prophecy, I will use the Bible as my standard. And we know that Christ walked through a field with his disciples on the Sabbath day, rubbing something together in between their hands and eating it. It was actually raw, okay? Raw food is not what we should be living on, but I say for people that have cancer, 80 to 85% raw food is probably best. Now, you can live on a raw diet. I don't necessarily recommend it. I think that it's a little extreme, but I eat myself probably 60 to 75% raw food. And that's what I feel very, very good doing. I might have a big salad in the morning, a bowl of lentils, sweet potato, maybe some greens or something like that. But that's my typical typical meal in the morning. But the primary aspect of that meal is a big salad. And then later on in the afternoon, some fruit, maybe a little bit of grains. Try to eat ancient grains and stay away from those that are modified now. For example, wheat products. Wheat products have about 60% more gluten in them than they did 40 years ago. That's just one generation. 40 years ago, the gluten had 60% less, or wheat had 60% less gluten. So we're actually suffering now as a result of that. Peanut allergies used to be very, very rare, but as they genetically modified the peanuts over time, now you've got young children and young people, usually born after 1975, that have the peanut allergy issue. You talk to most people that were born before 1975, they don't have any problems with peanuts. So you can see the parallel of genetically modifying foods and contemporary agricultural methods are directly linked to certain people's allergies as well as gut problems like Crohn's disease, IBS, colitis. All of those are related to some of these modified issues that are happening with the food. So again, what does that tell us? As reformers, as people who are trying to be free in Christ, is that we should be looking to grow our own food. We should be agriculturally minded. It should be like taught to us when we're young. If we're going to have true education, agriculture will be one of the major components in our education, understanding how to grow food. There was a school here in the States in the early 1900s, the Madison School. And the Madison School taught true education. It was not accredited, but I think it was the prime minister from China came over to the Madison School at that time, and he said, wow, this is an amazing school. The children learned agriculture, they learned trades, they learned the Bible, of course, and they were being taught how to go anywhere in the world and survive. So their motto was, give me a bag of corn seeds and a hammer, and I can survive anywhere in the world. If we got back to that kind of education, we would be a mighty and powerful people and highly effective throughout the world. George Mueller, some of you might know him. He was a powerful man of God and lived in the UK in the 1800s. He had many orphanages, and he had a quote. He said that the biggest obstacle to faith is comfort. And think about how we strive for comfort all the time. That's what we're always striving for, to be comfortable. That, I'm not saying you should strive to be uncomfortable, but I'm saying we need to have a divine understanding about what it is that we're really trying to accomplish. How comfortable do we really want to be, I guess is the question. How many conveniences do I need in my life? We get to the point to where we don't do much physically because we've got these conveniences, and that affects our health again. So I guess I wanted to kind of give you an overview of course, heart disease, lifestyle things that cause it, some things that you can do to mediate and remedy it. One of the most important things I'll tell you is colon health, water, and exercise. Colon health, water, and exercise. I know people that eat flesh foods, that eat cheese, that drink alcohol, that do all kinds of things, but you know what they do? They exercise regularly, and they're healthier than many of us that are on a plant-based diet. They have horrible diets. They have all kinds of bad vices and health issues that are bad vices. But because they exercise regularly and they exert themselves, they actually have better heart health, they have better blood sugar levels, and they have more tone in their muscles, and their stamina is better. So we really do need to remember the importance of exercise. Many of us get caught up talking about food a lot, but our physical activity is very, very important. What I want to do now is kind of open up the floor to some questions if you have any, and we can take a few.
Hi, Shirley, are you available? Brent, are you there, Brent? Okay, I'll, oh, you there, Shirley?
I'm here. Thank you, Brother Scott, for that presentation on heart disease, but also you touched on other things as well. So we thank you for that. So we're going to, I think there's a few questions in the chat. So what we'll do, we'll take some questions and then we'll share it with you, Brother Scott. There was one that I saw regarding your protocol on, trying to find out which way it was now. They want to know your cancer combination, Brother Scott, the cancer one. So what we could do is share our email address, and then we can probably get that from yourself, Brother Scott, of the ingredients, and then we can share it with them.
Yeah, I just put my email up there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I just ask a question? This is from the YouTube, the people on YouTube. I've got somebody named Paula. She's asking, I think when you was talking about the cleansing, using a lot of lemons, and the question she was asking, is it okay to use so much lemons? Because you said go from 5 to 10 to 15 and so on. Is it okay to use so many lemons if you've got an ulcer?
No, I wouldn't use it if you have an ulcer, and I definitely wouldn't do it if you didn't have a gallbladder, because you're combining that olive oil with it. So it's kind of like if a person has diabetes, we deal with their protocols differently. So there is no one fix for everyone. It takes time to talk to people to find out their particular condition. There's no one cancer formula that we use. Depending on the type of cancer, the formulas change. there are some basic immune boosting formulas, but then when it comes to, I'll tell you the two basic premises for working with cancer. I talked to a cancer physician, allopathic, a few years ago, and I asked him, I said, where's the focus on research? And he was a researcher in cancer. And he said, well, genetic engineering, turning genes on and off and boosting the immune system. And I said, well, thank the Lord. We're half of that is where we focus our efforts on boosting the immune system. The other half is on finding the natural compounds and substances that actually create apoptosis or create a quick death to cancer cells. And a lot of those natural substances are found in the plants that the chemicals are made from for the actual cancer drugs. So when I see a cancer drug, I tend to trace back, where did they get that cancer drug from? What are they making it from? And that sometimes sends me down a plant-based path to find out what actually works for different kinds of cancers.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Brother Scott. I think there was another one. There is another one regarding what you can recommend for diabetes.
Oh, sure. Diabetes is one of the easier things that we deal with. If somebody was coming to the sanitarium here, we usually can get their blood sugars normalized within about 4 to 5 days, but they're eating pretty much vegetables and salads the whole time. There's no carbohydrates, there's no sugar, definitely no sugar, and no fats. You see, this is one of the things that I think gets overlooked. If a cell in the body is covered in fat, it's very, very difficult for that cell to absorb insulin, and they become insulin resistant. So fat, carbohydrates, and sugar, all three of those have to be limited in order for blood sugar to come down. But we have a very powerful formula that we made also for diabetes that works very, very well to bring down blood sugar levels. But really, it's more nutritional than it is anything else. Even type 1 diabetes, we've had success in reducing those glucose levels and reducing people's dependence on insulin. If I see one on here, I can see what it says. I have numbness in my left arm with some pins and needles and tingling. Could this be linked to a deficiency? That could be linked to a precursor for even a heart attack. That could be a precursor to a stroke. That could mean that you're actually having some kind of warning sign along those lines. It could also be a pulled muscle, but I would tend to want to get that checked out pretty quickly if I have numbness in my left arm, pins and needles tingling, because that's a lack of circulation. So I'd want to go as fast as you can to go and get checked out. It says, though, my ECG and bloods came back good. They've recommended ibuprofen. I am a lorry driver. So they recommend the ibuprofen for the discomfort, I would imagine. But what you can do is use some hot and cold treatments on your arm and increase blood flow there and see if that helps also. But you want to be, if you've already been checked out and they said you don't have any kind of heart disease, you don't have any kind of clots, then you can get more aggressive with natural remedies. But you always want to err on the side of caution when you're dealing with anything, numbness in the arms or any extremities for that fact.
Thank you for this. Sorry, Brent. Yes, Brent?
Yeah, we have a question regarding, it's from Ronnie. I don't know if he wants to explain himself, but it's a heart problem associated with COVID and breathlessness.
Okay. Yeah, that's a primary, that's an inflammation problem. That's sometimes after a person has had COVID-19, they'll have residual symptoms that last for months. And usually it's centered around inflammation because the body's still dealing with the fragments of the virus in the body. So I would increase water. I do some simple teas with fennel, rosemary, garlic, try to reduce inflammation in the body. Also, you can make a tea that's going to actually help the respiratory system. That's where you would take menthol crystals or peppermint oil, lemon, honey, garlic, horseradish, things that are going to actually open up those capillaries in the lungs. Those are simple things that we can do to help that.
Great, thank you for that.
Pine needles. If you have pine needles in your area, you can make a strong pine tea as well and use the pine tea.
Yes, I believe that is a good antidote. Yes, thank you, Scott.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else for questions?
There is another one, Brent. Are there any other alternatives for MMR, AIDS, HIV, and other illnesses rather than vaccines?
You know, when we look at the structure of HIV, COVID-19, we're seeing some parallels. Hepatitis C, we're seeing some parallels in those viruses. They're very elusive and they tend to work in a different way than other viruses, which makes us think, why did all of a sudden viruses change the way they operate? So just like the science has kind of rewritten the medical book since COVID-19 with mask wearing and things like that. So we deal with a lot of HIV, we deal with a lot of hepatitis C, and COVID-19 is not that hard to treat as well. But how do I put this? Again, it comes back to addressing the virus itself and getting to the root of the problem. So we know some plant substances that are very effective, that are antiviral, that actually work to arrest. You can't kill a virus, but you can arrest it or make it inactive. And that's what the goal is. But if you've had HIV, hepatitis C, COVID-19, there's a marker in your blood and you'll have that marker for the rest of your life. But it doesn't mean that you're going to actually have the symptoms or that virus will become active again. So there are some parallels there, but I tend to want to deal with the root cause, and that's where we focus.
Okay.
Brilliant.
Thank you for the start.
I see something here. It says, is there any kind of antibiotic that a family can use to help with infection that cause inflammation? If you wanted a really good antibiotic, I mentioned it earlier, and I see you say, can golden seal be administered to children? And it can. You always want to reduce the dosage with children, and I don't really look at it from children's standpoint. I look at the weight of an individual. If a child or a person is over 70 pounds, say 70 to 100 pounds, I give them a lighter dose of what a normal dose would be. If they're under 70 pounds, that's when I treat them like a child. So it's all in your dosing, but you can take a teaspoon of golden seal, about 5 cloves of garlic, mash it all together, add a little warm water to it. You can add a little honey if it's too bitter for you, but we should learn to deal with these bitter herbs. We should learn to take it. We shouldn't want to sweeten everything. And you sip on that a little bit. That's a natural penicillin, really, when you combine golden seal and garlic like that. I have a nature's antibiotic that I put together that has golden seal, a very strong garlic extract, poke root, which is an antiviral herb, astragalus, which is a Chinese herb that's the only substance actually known to increase the white blood cell count just slightly. So I put astragalus in it, and then I put some cayenne pepper. So just 5 things in that antibiotic formula. But the 2 primaries is the golden seal and the garlic.
Oh, that's powerful. Yes, Scott, we've got another question regarding how to improve circulation. And I'm pretty sure what you've just mentioned now would be spot on for that.
Well, circulation, you want to eat foods that are going to stimulate the circulation. Garlic, ginger, cayenne pepper. I don't recommend people eat that, but if you make a tea with garlic, ginger, cayenne pepper, rosemary, fennel. I'm trying to think of things that you can get fairly easily that you can use. But I'll tell you, the simplest thing for circulation is movement. As we move our body, our circulation will improve. If you're able to move, that's the first thing you want to do is move, and your circulation is going to increase. I know in the old days when I was a child, I would see these old guys going to the steam room. And I wondered, why are they going to the steam room, just sitting around? I said, why don't they go do something? Well, that's a lazy man's way of increasing circulation. It's very good for you to sit in a steam and to naturally allow those toxins to be released, but it also increases the heart rate, it increases the circulation, and that's a good byproduct of it also. So there's a few things you can do naturally, but I always say, you want to increase circulation, get out and walk briskly for about 45 minutes, and you'll have some good circulation. Anybody with diabetes that's able to move should always get at least 45 minutes of a brisk walk. I see one says, what would you recommend for cold sores? This time of year, we have a herb that grows here in the States. It's called Mayapple or mandrake. And we can make a tincture. I just gave a few people some tinctures of it. We just finished a school last week here, and we went out and dug up some mandrake, and I made a few tinctures. But you just deal with the root. You let the root dry out a little bit, then pound it up and put it in either vegetable glycerin or a combination of alcohol and vegetable glycerin, and then cook the alcohol off and just preserve it in glycerin. I make tinctures several different ways, but a mandrake tincture is very, very good for cold sores. You can actually just take it and put it right on the cold sore. Something called lysine. If you add a little lysine to it, which is an amino acid, you can use lysine along with the mandrake tincture and put that on a cold sore, and that will help to arrest it. Both of those are very strong antiviral substances. Any treatment that I can use for a dental problem? You know, depending on what kind of dental problem it is, you know, rinsing your mouth out with antibacterial properties such as garlic and golden seal, charcoal, clay. You can do some coconut oil and do what they call a fat rinse, where you're rinsing your mouth out with the fat of the coconut oil and spitting that out to draw out impurities. But dental problems, you probably need to go to the dentist and get it taken care of. Someone has esophagus cancer and have a pipe whereas he eats from. How can we put this person in a steam sauna? What you can do is kind of make your own makeshift sauna. You can put a towel around the person, sit them in a chair, make sure there's nothing that can burn their skin, and boil some water, put it under the chair, and then drape a plastic over top of them. And the steam from the pot under the chair will steam up into that area where they're sitting, and you just make kind of a makeshift steam tent. You know, we get creative a lot when it comes to dealing with people, just because you have to work with what you have. But you can do that for them. Always want to make sure that the person's vital forces are relatively strong. In other words, a very weak person, you wouldn't want them to be in a steam or a fever bath, because they could faint, they could lose too much blood to their brain. So the same thing with a colonic or an enema. You want a person's vital forces to be fairly strong if you're going to do those treatments on people, so that they can actually not get too lightheaded.
Thank you, Brother Scott. I'm going to ask this question because I know it's to do with the topic that we had today. Someone's asking, two people asking, can heart disease be reversed?
It's one of the easiest things to reverse. There's been several doctors. I'll give you a couple videos to watch. Forks Over Knives is a good one to start with. That's on YouTube, I think. There's some very, very good material that shows how easily you can reverse heart disease. And they're all going to tell you, go on a plant-based diet. That's the first thing they're going to say. Bill Clinton in this country had quadruple bypass surgery. After his surgery, he spoke to somebody. They told him go on a plant-based diet. He says he feels better than he's felt since he was 30 years old since he did it. There are many, many, many people learning the benefits of a plant-based diet. So that would be the first thing that you would want to do. And don't eat the junk food, of course, the candies, the breads, the processed foods. I mean, we've got to really understand that should be in our rearview mirror at this point.
Thank you. I think there's quite a few. Where are we? That I can see. Someone's asking recommendation for a non-malignant tumor.
A
tumor.
Some kind of tumor? I didn't see it. I'm not sure. Okay.
Not further that far up up the page if you're trying to find it.
Okay. When we're working with people with tumors, of course, we want to find out what the cause is. Whenever you're working with anybody, you want to ascertain the cause. Location of the tumor can give you an indication of possibly what's causing it. Sometimes it's hormonal, sometimes it's a chemical exposure. A lot of people with MS, we find that there's been some kind of chemical exposure. So a very deep detoxification would take place. I think it says what can be taken for a lung tumor. Is that the one you were looking at?
There's that one, but there's one just a bit up.
Malignant tumor.
Yeah.
Malignant.
Yeah, malignant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Non-malignant, sorry, non-malignant tumor.
Non-malignant, okay.
Yes.
Depending on the location, depending on how close to the surface of the skin it is, you can use some topical things that might help to soften it, help to break it down. Castor oil is good. Warm castor oil packs are excellent. We have some things that can actually draw tumors out of the body. I don't recommend people doing that if you don't have experience with it. But I would just recommend warm castor oil packs and talk to somebody specifically that's a medical missionary that's experienced in it, so that you probably might want to maintain some privacy. So just talk. You can email me if you want to at herbsforfood@gmail.com, and I can maybe send you some information.
And Scott, while we're on that subject, are you able to send your products all around the world if anyone is, especially with regards to that formula you mentioned right in the beginning for heart disease, where you had a host of ingredients in? If any of the viewers are wanting to purchase that from you, are you able to send that globally?
Yeah, we do ship overseas. I try to make it worth it because the shipping charges and the duties can be really high sometimes. So I try to, advise people to kind of come together and order all at one time and then distribute within that country. It just makes it that much more economical. But yeah, we do. And I can send you a breakdown of the products if anybody wants an email, just to show you everything we have.
Okay, yeah, we do have a medical missionary center here in the UK. So we have a sanitarium here. So possibly we could put you in contact with them, and then we can then distribute locally, as an example, here in South Africa.
Okay, that's great. Yeah. To answer this question, I see would the castor oil shrink the tumor? I don't know if you could say. And hello, Sharon. Good to see you on the line there. Would the castor oil shrink the tumor? It would soften the tumor. I don't like to say that castor oil shrinks it. What we're trying to do is soften it so that the lymphatic system in the body can actually address it naturally. That's what we're doing. We're kind of assisting nature in that sense. I see a good question. What would likely cause lung cancer in someone who doesn't and has never smoked? I worked with a brother years ago and a few other people since then that had lung cancer that did not smoke. And I asked him about his lifestyle, and we talked, and he loved those Worthington fake meats. And so I started researching some of the chemicals in those fake meats. And sure enough, some of those chemicals actually cause lung cancer. So we could be eating fake meats and not realize that we're getting cancerous chemicals in our bodies. That's why you just want to go get you some organic sweet potatoes, get some lentils, and keep it simple.
Yeah, that's right, Scott. Some of those alternative meats are actually worse than natural meat, right?
Exactly.
Mm. There's another one.
Hi, Scott. I've got a question on YouTube for you. There's a lady, she's asking, just hang on a moment. She says she's got a friend who's addicted to coffee, tea, and sugar. She'd offered them some suggestions, and she says, which they weren't happy with, and she was just asking, what would you suggest that they could do to come off these things?
Okay. Well, when people are addicted to caffeine, I try to get them to transition to something like green tea, and then wean them to lower doses. The green tea's just got better health properties than the caffeine that's in coffee, but it's highly addictive, coffee and tea. So getting them to a green tea, and then over time, reducing the amount of green tea and incorporating something for flavor. If they like the taste, there's some really good tasting herbal Earl Grey tea, which kind of, if you make it strong enough, it can kind of taste like a black tea, but it doesn't have any caffeine in it. But I also heard you mention sugar. And when people are addicted to sugar, I find that if they can get some concentrated green foods in their bloodstream, meaning like we have a green food that has moringa, spirulina, alfalfa, kelp, just concentration of green foods in the bloodstream tends to reduce people's sweet tooth. And that's a really interesting phenomenon. I've just realized that in experience over the last 6 or 7 years. So that's what I use for people with sugar, are superfood, super green foods, and that reduces the cravings.
Thank you.
Thanks for this, Scott. Have you got one, Brent?
Yeah, Shirley, I see we have quite an involved question regarding cancer from Christine, and I'm wondering if maybe she should not contact Scott directly on that one. 2 messages down.
Oh, okay. Regarding the cancer patient. Okay, so Brother Scott, the person has a tumor in the liver and on the intestine and one in the thyroid. So what Brent is asking, whether they should speak with you personally, because I want to know if the lymphatic drainage on a cancer patient would be recommended.
Yeah, probably best to do that so that we can, do a Zoom call or some kind of consultation and talk about it. I'm going to be gone for the next 8 days. Next week, I'm taking a break. I need to take a break. We do need to come aside every once in a while. Some of you might have heard about Elder Wilson a few weeks ago. He came down sick. He's right across the road from me here, and he's resting. He's fine. But I got kind of a wake-up call too. I said, we work hard. I mean, we love our work, and we love doing what we do. And the Lord has blessed us with the rewards of doing it. It's the satisfaction. You don't make a lot of money. This is not a money-making venture, okay? But you do get some really significant spiritual rewards by doing it. But we do need to come aside. And so now what I'm incorporating into teaching medical missionary work is how to take care of ourselves, because we teach all this information about how to take care of other people, but we don't typically teach how to take care of ourselves. So that's kind of the new focus where we're going now. So I'll be gone for about 8 days next week. So I'll try to answer as many emails as I can between now and Tuesday. But after Tuesday, you might not hear from me for a few days. I'm going to unplug for a little while.
No, that's fine, Brother Scott. 100% understand and agree.
Okay.
Also, please regards to Elder Mayman as well. And we're all praying for him.
Oh, he's doing fine, by the way. He's feeling fine. He's just now he's struggling with how to rest. He doesn't really know how to do it, so he's up there baking pies and cooking, and he doesn't even eat the stuff. He'll bake it and then he'll say, "Here, you need to eat this." he has to stay busy. He's constantly doing something. So, but he's fine.
That's good. But please greet from all of us.
I will definitely share that with him.
Thank you. There is one that was sent to me, like a cure for multiple sclerosis, for MS.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, about MS.
Okay.
Oh, and ME, chronic fatigue syndrome as well.
Okay. Well, I'll start with the MS. There is a way to treat MS. It's a very labor-intensive program, but it deals with re-stimulating the neurological centers in the brain. So we're trying to work on the dopamine in the system, and increasing that along with physical therapy, kind of reconnecting the brain with the body's muscular movements. So there is a treatment that we use, and we were successful because it's a similar treatment that we use for Lou Gehrig's disease. So it's very, very close to that. And both of those, we were successful. I'd probably do a pretty extensive consultation to find out if they were exposed to any harmful chemicals at any time, to possibly identify it, where it came from. Sometimes I find that people were exposed to chemicals when it comes to MS.
Thank you, Scott. And then there's one with the ME, chronic fatigue syndrome. Sorry, not that one. So there's another one that's regarding herbs, regarding obesity and weight loss.
Weight loss?
And obesity.
Obesity. Yeah, typically, for weight loss, I mean, there are a few things that we could recommend to somebody, like raspberry ketones or something like that, to kind of help stimulate the metabolism for weight loss. But for the most part, it's going to be nutrition and exercise. It's going to be consuming less calories than you burn. That's the formula. And that's a lifestyle change. You eat 2 meals a day. One of the easiest things you can do to reduce your weight is go to bed earlier at night, because if you stay up, you're going to eat more. Go to bed early, and you probably won't have that snack in the evening. And that's a good little tip.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Charlene, we've got Rosemary's hand up. I don't know if you want to let her unmute Rosemary, if she can ask a question.
I'm not sure if that was from before.
Yeah, hands up.
Yeah. I think I did see her name hand up before when Brother Scott was speaking. Or was it Rani?
Please do you know cause of some.
Rosemary could maybe just pose a question in the message box.
There is a question there, Brother Scott, regarding deal with fluid overload from heart failure.
Yeah, that's congestive heart failure. And getting that liquid, that inflammation off the lungs, that's another protective reaction in the body to protect itself. So you'd want to make some adjustments in the nutrition of that person for sure. They need to be on a very healthy, probably 75% raw, but a plant-based diet. Don't stop drinking water, drink lots of water, but also increase things like parsley tea, garlic, the phenols, the rosemaries, all of those are going to help to reduce inflammation and pull fluid off the body. Corn silk tea, anything that's going to help to reduce inflammation. But they do need to continue drinking water. For example, if a person has a problem urinating, a man with an enlarged prostate, a lot of times they'll stop drinking water, but actually they need to continue to drink water, but address the problem with the urination. We can't allow our symptoms to cause us to reduce the things that we actually need. Dehydration in the organs is a very serious condition. So, but definitely addressing the diet and the inflammation fluid around the heart. And the best way to do that is through some adjustments.
Thank you for this, guys.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if Brent is there. But you know, when you touched on MS, Brother Scott, someone did ask regarding the ME, the chronic fatigue syndrome.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sometimes that can be a metabolic syndrome where a person's suffering from
He used to be the original DJ that I clip downstairs. You know that?
Oh, sorry.
No, when Adlib was running. When I started, he was
James,
the resident.
could you mute, please? Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, there might be some kind of metabolic syndrome that's happening there where there's more than one particular issue. So I would want to do an assessment and kind of consult with a person that had that condition. I wouldn't want to just start saying things without more information.
Of course, no, I understand. And those that are questions like this question that would need consultation, please could you email us and we'll be able to pass you on to Brother Scott or and so forth to get your question dealt with or your concern dealt with. There is someone that says regarding heartburn, they get it at the beginning of running or walking, but it does settle later. So do you know what the cause could be?
I have to kind of go by a process of elimination. I want to assume now that their esophagus is working properly, meaning that valve or that flap from the stomach into the esophagus is working well, or into the larynx up in the throat is working well. If that valve is working properly, then it might have something to do with what they're eating and the combination of foods, possibly drinking when they're eating, possibly eating a poor combination of foods. Can cause heartburn, eating at the wrong time, eating meals too close together. All of those can possibly cause heartburn. So I'll just run down the list very quickly. Try to have 5 hours between your meals. Don't snack. Make sure that you eat vegetables with vegetables and that you eat fruits with fruits, not mixing those two things. The enzymes in our mouth are different for vegetables and fruits, and digestion actually starts in our mouth. So having proper food combining proper foods, you can get some of those lists. Even you might have some there available. If not, I can get you some. And separating your meals and not eating too late at night. And you might have to do some experiment with food to see if there's certain foods that are triggering the heartburn. So you kind of have to, as long as you're following those rules and guidelines where you're not drinking with your food, you're separating your meals, you're not eating late at night, you're doing proper food combining, and you're still having the problem, then you might want to look at what it is that you're eating.
Thank you, and Brother Scott. So there is one regarding functional neurological disorder. I'm just trying to find the question regarding it.
While you're having a look, Charlene, Scott, I have a question.
Sure.
What is your take on eat fit for your blood group, where it's sort of sections foods where you can have them certain times a week, where they are beneficial, neutral, or you need to avoid the foods. and it depends on your blood group. What is your take on that?
Oh, on your blood type, like eating for your blood type?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that. I did a little research on it. I couldn't find enough conclusive information. And I know that when we're in Christ, we become of one blood. So I thought it was kind of starting to take us into almost a new age or progressive approach into medicine. And God is very simple. You know, he doesn't want us to try to go out and get blood tests to see what our blood type is, to see what we should eat. It just seemed a little far-fetched.
Right.
Brother Scott, I've got a question from Juliet. She says, how do you reverse a typical cell in the breast or operation to remove the cell? An operation to remove the cell, is it a good idea? You understand that? Was that clear enough, or do you need a little bit more?
Well, I guess when you say remove the cell, are you talking about the tumor?
I presume so, yes.
Okay.
It just says atypical cell in the breast. So you're not going to remove something unless there must be some either growth or whether it's causing a problem.
Okay.
Ask Julia if you could clarify a little bit more, but it just says to remove atypical cell in the breast.
Right. I'd have to make sure that I understand the language that they're using. So I would probably want to talk to them about, I mean, if somebody asks me about removing something in their body, I want to make sure I understand exactly what they're talking about. I wouldn't want to comment without having adequate information to know what it is that they're addressing. So if they email me, I can maybe get them.
If you could put your email in the chat. Oh, okay, it's in the chat. So if they email you, that would probably be the best course of action.
Okay.
Right. And it is the email is in the chat.
I see one here. Somebody said, is there a connection between dental health and heart disease? And there is. You can actually get an infection in your mouth that can make your blood poisonous, that can actually weaken your heart. So it is important for us to take good care of our teeth and our dental health. So yes, there can be a connection there. And somebody said, what is the best course of recovery for COVID and pneumonia? There's an entire protocol for that we use. I wouldn't want to just talk about it flippantly, but it is addressable. But all of us should be aware of these basic remedies. COVID-19 has been around for more than a year now, and we should be able to address it, all of us. All of us should know the basics of that by now. We should have been researching. We should know the difference between an RNA vaccination. We should know the difference between a rhinovirus and a SARS virus. We should have all been studying this by now. This is a very good opportunity for those of us that are interested in medical missionary work to kind of dive into something. Like I was saying earlier, I've had to study essential thrombocythemia lately. And the more you research, the more you study, the more God opens up connections and parallels with other diseases. And that's how you learn. That's how you learn this work. But get yourself some old books. And one of these days, I'm going to make a list. I need to work on this because I have some old books that I use for reference. A lot of the new books, a lot of the information on the internet is kind of regurgitating the same information under different headings or platforms. But the older books, I mean, I'll tell you a couple right now. I mean, Back to Eden is a good book by Jethro Kloss. Everybody should have that book. That one was back in Kellogg's day. So Back to Eden by Jethro Kloss, excellent older book. I have some old endocrinology books from the 60s that I use for hormone issues. This was before pharmaceutical companies became so aggressive in endocrinology issues. So I have some old endocrine books. But as you start to do the work, and you learn the anatomy and the physiology of the body, that's when it becomes actually more enjoyable also, because you're able to kind of connect the dots. Had a hysterectomy, how can I balance my hormones? We make formulas for hormones. I make two particular formulas. One's for pre-menopause and one's for post-menopausal women. And both those formulas have proven to work very, very well. Some women that have really severe cramps, things like that would be the pre-formula. And women that might be finding that their hair is thinning or their bones are weakening or they're moody or they're having hot flashes, all those would be menopause symptoms. And that's when we would use the post-menopausal formula. But those are very effective for that. And if you email me, I can send you what you can maybe find on your own and build your own.
Scott, someone on the ministries asked a question, and something I was going to ask you. Every week we pose a challenge for our viewers, and it's something that they can do throughout the week, and then we just really catch up with them on our next show, and then ask them about the challenge and how it went, and their feedback on that. So we also like the host to get involved with that. Can you recommend or suggest anything that the viewers can look at, challenge-wise?
Challenge-wise, let me think about that. Like a video? Is that what you're referencing? Like some kind of video they can watch to challenge themselves?
No, it could be basically an activity. So in the past, we've had a lemon challenge where they drink so many lemons a day, for health reasons. We've had challenges not to take your cell phone to bed with you at night, to leave it in another room. We've had various challenges like that, so.
Oh, sure.
Something that they can do at home to benefit themselves, and then something that we can then catch up with them on our next show.
Okay, yeah. That I kind of like what you were talking about earlier. There was a challenge for this past week. Okay. Here's one. Don't eat after sunset, any food. Just drink water after the sun goes down. And now it's summertime, so it's pretty easy to do that because it gets dark around 8:30. But usually try to eliminate food 5 hours before you go to sleep. So if you go to sleep at 10 o'clock, you don't want to eat after 5 o'clock. But that's a really good habit to get into. For people that have, like we were talking about, acid reflux, it's a very good habit for them because usually their gastrointestinal system is overtaxed and their body might be producing too much hydrochloric acid because it's constantly digesting food. So eating 2 meals a day, not eating after sunset, is a good start.
Brilliant.
And go to bed early. You'll go to bed earlier if you don't eat.
Yes, we've had that one. So go to bed before 10 o'clock, preferably a bit earlier. Yeah, we've had that one. So what you're saying is, in the UK, and I know it's coming to summer there now. And what time is it sunsetting by you, Shireen?
About 8:45.
Okay, that's fine then. Okay, okay, a bit late. So yes, time-wise, if you're going to bed at say 10 o'clock, you're saying 5 hours before you go to sleep then, Scott?
Yes, well, 5 o'clock. Yeah.
Okay, not to eat anything, so just drink water or maybe say herbal tea or...
Yeah. Just something, not anything solid, right?
Yes, okay. Brilliant.
And especially for people who are trying to lose weight or maintain healthy weight, not eating is a great start for that. Very easy start.
Okay. So for any viewers that are on here for the first time, you can go onto our website, www.truetemperanceinternational.org, and over there you can view all our past challenges that we've had over various weeks. So you can go and have a look at that on our website.
Brother Scott.
I see the messages flooding in now. Well, can I have a little of this? Can I have a little of that?
Yes, there is two questions that I would like to ask you. I did mention it regarding the FND and the functional neurological disorder. And someone said that they have quite a few friends that are is coming up, they're having it now. So they want to find out what can be done, I think it was. I'm trying to find it again.
Sure,
Yeah,
that's one. Yeah, that's one where I would want them to email me, because it sounds interesting. Right off the bat, when you say they have several friends that are suffering from that, I want to know, have they all been in the same environment? Have they been exposed to the same possible chemicals? Because when you're talking about neurological disorders, a lot of times it can be from chemical exposure. Kind of like if a person has seizures all the time. That doesn't necessarily mean they have epilepsy. It could be parasites that are causing seizures. So you kind of want to investigate to find out if you can figure out what's causing it.
Okay, so the person who asked that question, could you please email Brother Scott? This email address is in the chat. And last question, Brother Scott, from what I can see, is regarding someone plants onions and garlic, and I want to know if they can use it, but they're saying a word here that we don't really use, cure, when it comes to cancer, but we don't use the word cure, but they want to know whether it can help, I would say, onions and garlic when someone has cancer.
Onions and garlic are good anti-cancer foods. So yes, they can use those.
Okay. So I think that is all from me regarding the questions.
Okay.
Yes, Jacqueline, it can be found on our YouTube channel at True Temperance International.
Yes,
And
can we just focalize the web address, the email address, because not everybody on YouTube can have access to our chat unless they've seen it in the YouTube chat.
Yeah, so they can go on to www.truetemperanceinternational.org.
Okay, thank you, Brent. I was actually referring to Brother Scott's email, so it's herbsforfood@gmail.com. That's HERBSFORFOOD@gmail.com. Thanks.
And then with regards to the ministry, with regards to what else we are offering, on a Tuesday, we have a spiritual Bible study at 7 o'clock. On a Thursday, we have an essential oils class, also at 7 o'clock. And then we obviously have this family health show every Saturday at various times around the globe. And yes, if you are looking at additional information, you can get us on YouTube, on our website. And if anyone hasn't joined our Telegram group, then please send us a message, and we can then add you to our Telegram groups, where we can interact over there and then assist you with any additional information that you're needing. Thank you. Edgar's just sharing all the information now. Thank you, Edgar. There, you guys can just take a screenshot of that, or take a photo with your phone, and or a screenshot with your phone to get that information off on the groups. So, Sterling, if there's no other questions from your side.
No,
wow,
no,
Scott.
I'm just going to put our links in our Telegram links in the chat now.
Yeah. So I'm sure everyone was tremendously blessed with the wealth of information that Scott shared with us today on heart disease, and all the little tips and what have you that he shared with us, especially on the liver cleanse, the COVID information, the importance of cleansing the colon, and so on. So if anyone wants any additional information, then please get hold of Scott directly on his email, or you can email ourselves. You can see the email has now been posted in the chat for True Temperance International. So if anyone wants to reach out, then please do. So what time you got there now, Scott?
Here it's 10:55 a.m.
Okay, getting into the morning then.
Yeah.
Good. Good. Yeah, it's just got dark here now in South Africa.
Just got dark, huh?
Sun's just set, so
Okay.
so
You want to pray your Sabbath out there?
Yes, I have someone that I stay with, so we'll close after the call.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's been a blessing. You've given us a wealth of information today. Thank you. And as I say, it's quite dear to my heart. Excuse the pun, but my dad has just gone through a double heart bypass, and yeah, it's good information because he's been on warfarin, and now they're bringing him off the warfarin after the heart op. So he's been about a month now that after he's had the op. He lost 12 kilograms after the op. He's finally walking again. He's taking in solids and what have you. But they say they're going to wean him off the warfarin, but more than likely put him back onto something else. And the reason why he went on the warfarin was he had an irregular heartbeat. And over time, he wasn't supplementing. He wasn't eating the right foods. He had calcification of the main artery, and his actual valve was blocked. So he ended up having the operation, you know. So yes, they're going to be weaning him off the warfarin because it's obviously not doing him any good, and then putting him on an alternative. And I'm sure he can look at something else, but again, you know, we're not sure. So
yeah, it would be good if he sticks with a plant-based diet. Try to get him to watch Forks Over Knives if you can. Okay. Try to get him to watch that video. I think you can find it for free on YouTube.
You can, I think, yeah.
It's a really good video for somebody to watch after having the procedure that he just had.
Oh, interesting. Thank you for
that.
that.
That will also kind of connect you and him with a couple really good research doctors. They did the China study and things like that are some pretty revolutionary studies on heart disease and the link between diet and heart disease.
Okay, brilliant. Great. Yeah, I'll let him know then. Thank you. So, Charlene, I think we've got all the questions that have come through. We've posted all the links for people to get all the Scott through ourselves and through him directly.
I think there's one more, Brent, regarding the high. I did message Brother Scott quickly, privately, regarding the high level factors activity clotting. Okay. Can you see that on your side?
Oh, yeah, I think I see
privately.
The factor 8 activity clotting.
And then we'll have this last one, and then we can.
Yeah, on 6 o'clock now. This side.
Oh, is that the question from Charlene? It says,
yeah,
looking at factor activity clotting.
Yes.
You know, again, that's where I would want to research what's causing the clotting. What is it that's actually happening? Is it hormone related? Is it some kind of predisposed genetic condition? So I'd have to do a little bit more research rather than I would just dive into talking about a protocol or even anything anybody could do for that. I tend to be fairly cautious in giving advice flippantly. I like to be more methodical in my approach. I'll answer questions, of course, like we have today, but when it comes to specific conditions like that, where you kind of need more information, I tend to want to just get a little bit more information from the person.
No, that's fine. Absolutely fine. If that person can email Brother Scott, please, and so that he can answer it for you and get more information from you as well. But that's fine, Brother Scott. And 100% agree with that. So nothing from me. And Brent?
No, nothing from my side, Shireen. Yes, we'd just like to once again thank Scott. Scott, anything from your side as we wrap up?
Just one thing, I saw something come up a couple of times talking about fluid intake and heart failure, because the doctors said to limit the fluid intake. If a person is under a doctor's care already and they're giving them advice, I wouldn't want to contradict what the doctor is saying. So if the doctor said to limit the fluid intake, limit the fluid intake. But also educate yourself on how you got the condition and how you can treat it with your lifestyle. That's the best I can say on that.
That's a good answer. Yeah, brilliant. Well, Scott, thank you for your time today and for your wealth of information. It's really been incredible. And yeah, blessings to everyone your side, and send regards to Mama Wilson. We hope he gets, we pray that he gets better soon.
Yeah, it's raining here. I'm going to go walk over there and see how he's doing.
Okay.
Could somebody just repeat your email address? Somebody on the YouTube is asking for Brother Scott's email address so they could contact him. And obviously they can't go in the chat on Zoom. So if somebody could just repeat that for him.
So the email address is herbs for food. So it's herbs with an S, for food, FORFOOD @gmail.com.
Thank you.
Brother Edgar, you've got some good looking aloe vera behind you there. Good job. Everybody ought to have some aloe vera in the house.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's good.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yes, I try to use it when I can.
Amen.
So so I just want to say thank you to our YouTubers for joining us this afternoon. And I'm trying to remember what we next week for our program, but we are on every Saturday at 3 o'clock. So please join us again next week. Brent?
Yes, definitely. Next, we look forward to feedback on the challenge that Scott has posed for us for this coming week. So it's to stop any meal 5 hours before bedtime. So whatever time you be sleeping, obviously try and sleep at a reasonable time. And yeah, let's see how we get on. Let's see who's cheated and who couldn't hold out on only having liquids for that time period. Brother Scott, we've had a message that someone's asked us to pray for yourself and your ministry before we close. So if we'd like to do that for you, if you don't mind.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. So if we all close our eyes, please, I'll say prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you now with thanks and praise for the wonderful opportunity to get this information from Brother Scott today. Father, we ask you now that you would send your Holy Spirit to be with him as he ministers to various people, Lord, and helps all those in need of care around the world. We especially ask for healing for Brother Mammon Wilson, that he'll recover soon, Lord, that he can also get back to work, and that he will be fit and ready to serve you again. So we just ask that you will bless all the listeners today, Lord, that they would receive a lot of valuable information and use that to their benefit, and that they will take what they have been given and to apply that to their lives, and to always be looking at their bodies, which is the temple of God, and not ours, Lord, but yours. So we thank you now for Brother Wilson, his ministry, and then also Brother Scott and his ministry. We ask you that you bless them and take them further to help those in need. As we go on about our way into this new week, we ask you to send the Lord Jesus to be with us. We pray this in his holy, holy name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Brother Brent. I look forward to keeping in touch, and thank you for allowing me to share.
No, we thank you. Thank you. And next week, it is our Dr. Louisa, who is a part of TTI. She'll be touching on acid reflux. So I know there was quite a few questions, and Brother Scott answered it. And Dr. Louisa next week will dive into the reasons and causes as to why.
Brilliant.
So Dr. Louisa. So thank you very much, Brother Scott.
Good.
And hopefully we'll have you on again when you're more relaxed, or you're not going to be so busy. So we'll have you.
Yeah, enjoy your break. Enjoy your break.
Thank you.